I've never been one of those men who have issues with wives earning more money than their husband. For a while, I led my wife to believe that she earned more money than me. It was just something I did to feed her ego, but years down the line, I realized that she began to see herself as somebody who was better than me, and she let it get to her head. See, I met Megan when she was still off in college. As of that time, I had graduated from college 3 years before, and luckily for me, I was able to get a good-paying job at the tech firm that I worked for. See, I'll admit, when I met Megan, I didn't think our relationship would really work out since we were both from different worlds. While I came from a family where my parents struggled so hard to send me and my younger brother to school, Megan comes from a very, wealthy home where all of her needs were met and she had an easy life. Both her parents were state lawyers who earned well, and as a result, neither Megan nor any of her siblings ever had to struggle, really. Megan and I met at a mutual friend's birthday bash, and 2 weeks after we met, we had our first date. Even though it had been pretty crystal clear from the very beginning that Megan was out of my league, man. I'd fallen madly in love with her, and she loved me. Well, today, 2 months after we met, Megan and I started dating, and that was when I began to notice certain things about her that I did not like. Now that I look back and I'm sharing my story, I do blame myself for everything that had happened, but because I should have walked away when I saw those attributes in Megan. But because I was just so deeply in love with her, I believed that she would grow to respect me more and do things a wife is supposed to do for her husband. Okay, back to the story though. Aside from Megan coming from a rich home, she was also very intelligent. Her intelligence was one of the things that attracted me to her. Owing to her intelligence, 4 months after she graduated from college, she landed a good-paying job, and as of that time, her salary was 3 times more than I earned. See, I don't know if it was my mistake, but when Megan told me how much she would earn from her new job, I excitedly just told her that she earned more than I did. It wasn't to make her feel good about herself or something. We were a couple just talking about our finances and our earnings, so I did not think I had a reason to lie to her. About a year after Megan got her job, I proposed to her and she said yes. Before Megan and I married, I had met her family a couple times and had been inviting to their home for dinner several times. And I would say that her family treated me nicely, even though they were all very successful, including Megan's older siblings. But I noticed that shortly after I told Megan that she earned more money than me, her siblings began to treat me differently. The first time I noticed that Megan's siblings were acting weird whenever I was around, I told Megan that what I had noticed, but she told me to ignore them, and I did. Before the whole weird energy started, Megan's older brother Sam and I used to have a good relationship, but all of a sudden everything changed. The change in their character was really obvious before I proposed to Megan and when we began to plan our wedding. Honestly, sometimes being around them would make me very uncomfortable, but because I loved Megan, I tried my best to not let their change in attitude get to me. I remember one time, it was a week to our wedding, and Megan's parents invited me over for a family dinner. That night, I felt invisible at the table because the whole time Megan and her siblings discussed about several money-related topics, and each time I tried to join the conversation, they would ignore me and act like they did not even hear me. It happened twice, and those 2 times I expected that Megan would call out her sibling for ignoring me, or at least she would try to make me a part of the conversation, but she did nothing. Nil. Since we've been butting heads a lot at the time, I did not mention anything about how her siblings ignored me, and I just allowed it to slide. Eventually, Megan and I got married, and I honestly believed that her siblings would treat me better since I had become her husband, but I was wrong. In fact, her siblings' behavior towards me even got worse. It even became obvious that they were looking down at me, and I never understood why. Several times, if I attended a family party or dinner, Megan's siblings would make it so obvious that they did not respect me and didn't even treat me as part of their family. Aside from Megan's siblings ignoring my input in their conversation sometimes, they would publicly praise Megan in my presence, and they would ask her how she was coping because they knew that I was not earning a lot of money to give her the lifestyle that she was used to. Every time they said this, Megan would just giggle and tell them not to worry since she had everything under her hand. And I never really understood what she meant by everything under control. I just believed she was trying to get her siblings off her back. Now, you might all be wondering why I did not take offense when her siblings asked Megan that question. Well, like I mentioned earlier, Megan, she came from a rich home, and she was used to this particular lifestyle they're talking about, so I believe that was what her siblings were referring to. How dumb was I? 2 years after Megan and I got married, I realized her proud and arrogant attitude towards me was getting worse. For example, if we had a disagreement, she would yell and break things in the house. Also, if she gifted me anything before our disagreement, she would take it back and destroy it too. Megan did not respect me in any way, and everything about her was just absolutely terrible. But somehow I always believed that I was the cause of our issues. And I always tried my best to ensure that we didn't have any issues, even though it would be at my inconvenience. You know, as Megan and I were fighting almost every day, we were growing more and more distant from one another. More times we would be at home together and we would barely talk to each other. If she wasn't always on her phone, she would claim that she was working on her laptop, and it was always one excuse after the other, guys. Our intimacy dropped too, and we were just like two toxic roommates living with each other. Despite all that was happening between us, I still loved Megan and desperately wanted to make our relationship work. I even suggested talking to somebody who could make our marriage work out, but Megan was clearly not interested. The only time it seemed like we had a great relationship was only when we went to her parents' house for a dinner or a family get-together. At her parents' house, Megan would pretend that we were on the same page. She would smile at me, call me sweet names, and even ask questions about if I was hungry and what I would like to eat, just to make her parents believe that all was going well between us. It was so weird. Well, at first, I didn't really understand why her siblings would always praise her for being such a strong woman. I thought it was some kind of slang that they were using amongst themselves until the last Christmas dinner, and oh boy, did things go down. Well, per usual, Megan and I were invited to have dinner at her parents' house, and to show courtesy, Megan and I decided to buy some gifts for her parents. Since Megan and I were not really talking to each other still, we didn't tell each other that we have each gotten something for a parent. Well, that day while we were having dinner, since Megan and her siblings had the tradition of presenting the gift to their parents at the table, and their parents would just go and unwrap the gifts there, Megan suggested that, go ahead, take the present as the gift now. One after the other, each of Megan's siblings gave their gift, and their parents unwrapped it, and there they thanked them. I was the last person to present my gifts, and when Megan's parent unboxed them, they were both thrilled and happy at the same time. It turned out that I had gotten them the most expensive gift out of all of us, and Megan's siblings were oh so surprised. After we had done presenting the gifts, Megan's siblings began to talk about the business idea and how much money one would make from it if one invested at the right time. Since I also had an idea of the business they were discussing about, I shared my input into the conversation. And that's when one of my sister-in-laws asked me how would I know if the business would be prosperous or not, when all I did was spend Megan's hard-earned money. She said it in a muffled tone, but I heard every single thing that she said. By that, she was also insinuating that I used Megan's money to get the gift. Really? It was so embarrassing, and at that exact moment, I expected Megan to just confront her sister and let her know that I was not spending her money in any sort of way. But that never happened. Instead, Megan smiled, and she seemed satisfied to hear that she was the one that was taking care of me. When I saw exactly what had just happened, I told Megan's sister that Megan was not taking care of me in any way. Then I said, she's barely earning enough to take care of herself and her silly little expensive life that she likes, let alone take care of me. Besides, I earn a lot more money than Megan, so why would she be taking care of me exactly? Well, immediately after I said that, Megan stopped eating and she turned into my direction. Her siblings were also trying to make fun of me, looking at Megan as if they were asking for, confirmation. To my greatest surprise, Megan said that I was a liar. She even chuckled to insinuate that I was making things up. Honestly, that was the last thing I expected her to do. I don't know why, but even though Megan treated me like crap, I expected that she would defend me to an obvious point. But no, not at all. You don't earn more than I do. Didn't you tell me 2 years ago your salary's $5,000 a month? Ugh. Megan said in front of the whole family. It was almost like she was deliberately trying to ridicule me in front of her siblings, and her father even tried to warn her to stop talking, but she refused to listen. When Megan said that, I understood the game that she was playing. So I used the opportunity to brag to her parents and siblings, since Megan and I were no longer close and she barely knew what was going on in my life. She had no idea I've been promoted twice within the last 2 years. And as a result of that, obviously my pay was increased. Just to give her a taste of her own medicine, I told her parents and siblings how much I was earning, and I made it clear to them that Megan was not taking care of me in any way, and that I was the one who took full responsibility of our home, and Megan does not contribute a dime to what I do. After I said that, I just excused everybody and I left the dinner. I was so mad at Megan for embarrassing me that way, and it wasn't until I got home that evening that I realized exactly what Megan had been doing. She was intentionally making me look like a nobody before her siblings, which was the reason why her siblings' attitude suddenly changed towards me. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because after this event happened some days back, Megan had not returned home. I've been trying to reach her, but she is not responding to my call or to any of my voicemails. Somehow, even though I know I did the right thing by letting Megan's family know that I earn more than she does, a part of me feels like I did the wrong thing. That's why I'm asking you guys, am I the a-hole for telling my wife's family member that I earn more than she does? I look forward to your comments and responses. Thank you guys so very much. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I do want to hear your thoughts and opinions on this one. Are you on OP's side, or do you think that he needs to kick his girl to the curb and get out of that relationship? Let me know in the comment section down below. There's an update we're about to hop into, and here it is, update number 1. Hello, everyone. I really appreciate all your comments and suggestions. I've been away for months, and I completely forgot I even made this post. I'm so sorry for the long silence, and yes, while most of you think I'm a horrible person because I stood up for myself, some of you believe that I did the right thing. I understand your points, and I do respect all that you have to say. The last few months have been very tough for me, and being away for so long, it gave me the opportunity to think and make my own decisions, you know? Honestly, I don't regret embarrassing Megan, or whatever you guys call it. If I could go back in time, I would do the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah, without any regret. Do you guys still remember that when I shared my story, I mentioned that Megan did not come home for days? Well, it was not just a day. She didn't come home for 2 weeks, and I had no idea where she's gone or who she's with. Nothing. When Megan returned home and I asked her where she had gone and who she was with the whole time, she told me to my face that I had no right to question her movements, and she said a lot of degrading things to me after that. As if all of that was not enough, Megan confronted me about the incident at her parents' house. She claimed I had humiliated her and caused her parents and siblings to look at her differently. Well, at first, when she returned home, I thought that we would settle our issues like husband and wife, but Megan asked me to do something absolutely ridiculous. She said that the only way that we could settle our issue was if I called her parents and siblings to tell them that I was lying about my earnings and about what, well, she was truly taking care of me. At that point, I had enough of her crap. So I told her I would never do such a thing, and I didn't care about her parents or siblings, or about them looking at her or what they thought of her. I didn't care. As soon as I said that, she went absolutely livid and began to scream at me. Guys, she said a lot of horrible things and even said that we should not have been married because she married me out of pity. So the least I could do was lie to her parents. When Megan said that, I was really heartbroken. I mean, the whole time I seriously just believed what we had was mutual. But it turns out that I was the love-struck puppy and she was the one who married me out of pity. Maybe Megan expected that when she said that, I would try to beg her, as usual, or accept her terms, but when her manipulation did not work, it made her even more mad, and she packed her crap and left. This time around, she was away for weeks, and she even went as far as blocking me on Facebook and Instagram, when I did not stop sending her message after message after message. Well, guys, today, it marks 3 months since Megan moved out of the house that day, It took me a while before I learned that her friends and colleagues at work were housing her. I even showed up at her colleague's house to try to speak with her, but everything went wrong. So, I feel like Megan is intentionally doing this to torture me because she knows how I feel about her despite all she said to me. Initially, I promised that I would never involve her parents in our marital issues, but at this point I have to. I've made plans to meet with her parents in 2 days, and I've told them to invite Megan to their house too. I hope everything goes as planned, but hey, if it doesn't, I'll let you all know how things turn out. Thank you so much for the patience. I'll make another update soon. Update number 2. Hello family, I see all of your comments and they really make my heart warm. Thank you so much for you guys looking out for me. I'm also glad to see that many of you have been in my shoes and you handled things the right way instead of letting your emotions control you. Last week I met with Megan's parents as we had planned. I arrived there about an hour before Megan did, and when she came she greeted her parents and siblings. Then they acted like I was absolutely invisible to them. Her family also noticed her attitude towards me, but they did not say anything. Shortly after everybody settled down, I told them the reason I had called for the meeting, that I wanted to sort things out with Megan. I started by telling everybody that I loved Megan so much and want us to work out. So I was willing to swallow my pride and make the marriage work. As soon as I said that, I noticed that Megan's face brightened up a little as if she was expecting me to say something. My guess is she was probably expecting me to tell the parents the lie about my earnings, so I shocked her. Instead of lying to Megan's parents, I told them everything. I told them exactly how much of a horrible, manipulative person Megan was. I told them that our marriage had been struggling even before that Christmas dinner. But every time Megan and I showed up at their house, we would just pretend like everything was perfect between us. I also ensured that I mentioned that the reason our marriage was struggling was because of Megan and her possessive attitude. She always wanted everything to go her own way. She had serious anger issues and was very, very arrogant. As a result of this, we were always fighting all of the time. To clarify the earning part, I also told Megan's parents and siblings that Megan wanted me to come and lie to them so she could save her face. When Megan's parents and siblings heard all I had to say, they were shocked and could not believe that Megan, who appeared like a delicate little flower on the outside, could be so aggressive. Upon seeing that I had only made her situation worse, Megan began to yell at me, and she called me all sorts of names in her parents' presence. It was very obvious that that was not what she expected me to say, and the way her parents reacted fueled her anger even more. While arguing and yelling at me, Megan said the 4 words I least expected her to say. In a bid to defend herself before her parents and siblings, Megan said that she could not let a man control her, especially not a man like me. Then she looked me in the eyes and said that she wants a divorce. At first, I thought Megan was just pulling her leg, but when she said it twice, I knew she was not kidding. Originally, the purpose of me reporting Megan to her parents was not to ridicule her in any way. Yes, it hurt her feelings, but the plan was for her parents to talk to her so she could turn a new leaf. After Megan said that she wants a divorce, I tried to persuade her to change her mind. I even told her that it had not gotten to that extent and that we could still work on our marriage and save it. But it seemed like her mind was already made up. Even her parents and siblings tried to talk to her. They told her not to make such a decision while she was angry. But Megan refused to listen to anyone. She told us that she was an adult and that she was old enough to make her own choice. Days after Megan and I met at her parents' house, I still tried to persuade her to change her mind about the divorce. I even told her that I still loved her, and I was ready to do anything that would make our marriage work. But no matter what I said, what I did, Megan still remained adamant. So just yesterday, I called her to let her know that I've accepted to go on with the divorce, and if it'll make her happy. Guys, I know that this is not the kind of update you expected, but it's life, and crap happens. I've also learned to stop thinking with my heart and start thinking with my head. If the woman I love and want does not love me, then what's the use of being together? We will only keep hurting ourselves, so I think this divorce is what's best for the both of us. I know it may not be easy for me, but I'll pull through. It just is hard to acknowledge that 3 years of marriage is going down the drain. Thanks again, guys, for the support, comments, and your suggestions. If anything else happens, I'll make another update. But guys, please let me know, do you think that I went too far?